In this video, we're going to talk about a new project that I've got. I'm going to tell you about that, a Jeep, and kind of some of the things that's going on with that. I'm going to talk to you about some U-Pol products. Had a question about that, and what that is aerosol cans. They've got other products too, but we're going to talk about that. And I also had a question about after you sandblast or blast, whichever type of media you're using, what do you do from there? So that's what we're going to focus on. We have some other things to cover in this video, but that's the three main areas. So if you just joined us, I want to welcome you to this this live video. This is Donnie Smith, and I'm going to be going over this video from 7 to 7:30. And if you have any questions, be sure and leave a comment. Well, not below. This is kind of to the side on the live part. Then after this is done, you can leave a comment below through the replay. But again, I'll welcome you all. And first, I want to mention, if you kind of are looking for a step-by-step process, I have a checklist down in the description. You have to click the show more. There's a description there, and it'll say that, free checklist. And what that'll do is I'll give you step-by-step a lot of the most common things that you'll have to do, in a project. So you can grab this checklist, take it to the garage, and make sure you follow each step and don't skip any. So very helpful. I encourage you to go down and get that. So if you're just joining us, be sure and say, hey, hello, what's up? However, whatever you want to say. And that'll kind of let me know that Brian said, what's up? So that kind of lets me know that I'm coming through okay, because, you never know from this end. Sometimes I know whenever I'm creating videos, not live, just regular videos, I go through this whole video and realize something was wrong with the sound or, something like that. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. And if you saw the thumbnail to this video, you probably saw that 1985 Jeep Cherokee Chief that I have. I recently have got that. I've had it a little bit, but haven't got ready to get started on it. But, I'm getting closer to get started on that. And I'm also going to, when I get started on that, I am going to do videos on that, showing you the steps I take to do and what all I do. And I kind of plan to, it's going to be a complete paint job, but what all else I do for now, I'm not sure yet. So, hey, Stephen Terrell from Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks for showing up. See, I installed 3 rocker guard today. You recommended last week. Looks good. Oh, good deal, Brian. Thanks. Glad that worked out for you. But yeah, and things like that. And I may do some, I'm undecided exactly what path I'm going to take right now for the Jeep. What I'm going to do. How am I going to change the motor out? I'm thinking about, bed lining the whole inside. I don't know. It's just a project. I haven't even really got it planned yet, but I'm going to start. But it's an 85 Jeep Cherokee Chief. And, there's a lot of Cherokees out there. The Chief is a little bit more rare. It's the 2-door. It's not a 4-door. It's just a 2-door Jeep. That's back before, when it was AMC. So, I'm kind of going in new territory. Haven't really done a whole lot of Jeeps. So I'm going to see what this is going to entail. Now, the good thing is, it does got some body damage. Of course, 1985. It has a little bit of rust, not bad, but nothing's really too severe. It hasn't been wrecked or anything like that. So just your regular body damage from something from that year model, and really less rust than I was expecting. But there are a couple of spots I'm going to have to either find a patch panel for or fabricate something, and probably yank all the interior out, probably yank the whole front end clip off, motor transmission, and do all that. And the good news is, about the right time I was going to start this, Eastwood reached out to me, and they may be helping me out with some of the products. Not all of them, but some of the products that I may need, they may help me out with. Maybe with some of the, I told them the first thing I'm going to be doing is taking the front end clip off. So they may help me out with some of the tools to do that, or maybe some of the materials. We will see as we go. I know I did an Eastwood project several years back, and they really came through and helped me out with a lot of the materials. The paint, the primers, they got fillers, a lot of products, especially those of you that do restoration out there. They have a lot of products for that type of thing. Now, the paints, you can't get just any color through Eastwood. There's a select few, but there's going to be one. There's one close to the red that's on that Jeep. And, that will work real well. But we have not discussed exactly what they're going to help me with. They just reached out and said, hey, if you need some things to do videos on, would like to help you out and partner with you. So, and they're not paying me to do this or anything like that. They're just going to provide me with some of the products, and I can kind of test them out and let you know how I like them or demonstrate how they work. And I know with the last time I did that, their products are pretty good. I used a lot of their fillers and things like that. A lot of their products are really good products. So, but no, I'm not being paid to sell their products or anything like that. It's just me using their products. I don't really like to, if someone offers me products or an item, to try out, test, see if I like it, I don't mind doing that. But I really don't like to have a brand reach out to me, trying to sell their products or say they're good. If they're good, they're good. If they're not, they're not. And I'm going to tell you what I think. So, and that's why I will not accept like brand deals like that. But yeah, if you got something for me to try, definitely interested in that. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that. And I want to know your thoughts on this Jeep. Like I said, I'm undecided what path I want to go, what kind of Jeep I want to make it in the end. Probably want to lift it some, maybe rough country. I don't want a real tall Jeep, maybe a 3 or 4 inch or something like that. Again, it's going to depend on the money and things like that. And I may try to reach out to like rough country or some of those others, see if they're willing to help out. A lot of those, pretty tough to get them to help you out, but we'll see how it goes. But the reason I want to bring this up now, just so that this is coming up, I'm going to be starting a Jeep. I mean, I've still got a lot of videos to edit. I still got some of the jet ski videos to edit and upload. We're working on my son's truck, several projects. So this is going to be coming up soon, but it's in the works. So, but I'd like to know what you think. I mean, what ideas would you have for the Jeep? What would you do to it? And what would you like to see done to it? So that's just kind of some ideas for me to have an idea of what direction to go with that. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the answers, which talks about these other 2 things that I focused on. I want to focus on this video. I had a question about I've blasted my my project. What do I do now? And also about some U-Pol products. I want to talk about that for a little bit. So before I get over to that, Stephen, yes, it is a 4-wheel drive, and they do. They sell. And Stephen's asking, do they have a coating, for frame like PR15? And they do have some products, and I'm going to talk to them about that to see what will be the best product and what they recommend. But they sell POR15 as well. It's not an Eastwood product, but they do sell that, and they do sell other products like that they don't. It's not Eastwood brand. So yeah, I'm going to be talking to them about that. Let's see, Brian M, have you used the blocks called soft sanders? I had a hell of a time machining the control. The contours of the rocker. Just wondered if they are indeed useful. So Brian's asking if I used a block called the soft sanders. And I guess not, Brian, because that is not ringing a bell. I'm not sure. I mean, there's a lot of different type of blocks, but no, I can't recall using one called the soft sander. So, it might be something for me to look into. And if some of you see these comments and you have used this, be sure and come over here and leave us a comment and let us know about it and the experience you've had with it. You could help out with this as well, letting us know, what you have or haven't used. So anyway, let's jump over here. I'm going to jump on this other, let's see, questions real fast. Okay, Ray Morrill asks, what is the gun that takes static on dust off? Seems expensive. Now I'm not going to get too in depth on this because I am going to be doing a video here before too long. Had a company reach out to the college I'm at to offer us one to try out kind of long term. So we used it all last semester. It's not something I just wanted to use one time, then turn around and try to tell you how to use it. We use it on quite a few different jobs. And it does work well, especially fiberglass, plastics, anything that's that type of material, collects a lot of static electricity. And you wipe it down, maybe even tack it off. That creates more static electricity. And what that does is when you're painting, it's like a magnet. You know, it has a charge to it that just draws all the dirt in the booth or whatever and sticks to it. And what this gun does, you blow it off this gun after you've tacked it and done everything else. Right before you spray, you blow that, and it kind of discharges that that static electricity, and now you don't have things trying to stick to it. So it's a pretty cool. It is expensive. This definitely is not something for a DIYer just that paints 1 or 2 times a year. This is going to be for someone that does quite a few paint jobs, because it is a little bit expensive. But don't want to not answer this question, but Ray, I am going to do a video, you know, about that soon. I mean, school starts, well, we have to be back next week, you know, for all the meetings and all that. And then the following week, school starts back, and, you know, my summer break is now over. So anyway, I'll get back to the school, and we'll be doing some of those type of videos, and that'll be soon. You know, I'm familiar with it now, know how it works, so I don't mind doing a video on it now. So thanks for asking. Okay, let's go to the next question. And if I accidentally skip any of these, I apologize. You know, I kind of scan through them like I am doing right now, and sometimes I do miss some. And as school gets started, you know, it gets a little busier, and it's easier to miss even more, but I'll try to do my best. I know there's a couple before I get to the other ones. Let's see. Okay, here's one from D. It says, I bought 2K spray from a site, and it turns out it was just lacquer. And, you know, that's the thing about online. You can say, you know, what you want. You can't always believe everything online. You know, you can anybody can get on their starter blog and say whatever they want. So that's why I would really use products that I'm familiar with or have heard of, you know, so that you don't get these things like that. Yeah, because lacquer is not a 2K product. And if they're advertising it that way, you know, that's just not, you know, it's not. So, but that is the thing with online. We didn't say you bought it online, but yeah, from a site, and it turns out it was just lacquer. So yeah, that can happen. So yeah, make sure you use a paint store that that you know and trust, or a paint store or online paint store like Eastwood, or, you know, wherever you are looking. Because if you just go online, eBay, you know, or anything, Amazon even, because you don't know who that's coming from, yeah, be careful. Okay, Bob Singler says, thank you for sharing. I have a ridiculous amount of orange peel. Seems to require sanding too low. And, you know, that could be a problem. You know, if it is that excessive, and depending on the mill thickness of the clear coat you had, I mean, it is possible to sand too much of that clear coat off to be able to buff it. And if you sand through, obviously you're going to have to probably spray a little more color and re-clear coat it. You don't want to get that clear coat too thin. You can use a mill thickness gauge. I've mentioned this in a previous video. Some of them are kind of expensive. Some of them aren't that bad. But, you know, see what the thickness is before you start buffing, and then kind of check that through the process. Because if you sand too much clear off, the clear is just too thin. And even if you buffed it, it looks nice. If it's too thin, it's going to end up, the sun's going to eat on it, and the clear is going to start peeling. So you want, depending on the brand you're using, they all have their own recommendations, but you want to leave so much clear on there. So if you think you're going to sand through, you know, be careful with that. And that's one thing I might mention right now. Let's say you got 2 coats on, you can just tell, you know, you got all this dirt, heavy orange peel, and you know you're going to have to sand quite a bit to get that all level. I mean, you might put a 3rd coat on, you know, just to give that for the sanding, you know, give that amount for the sanding. So you might take that into consideration. Okay, here's one of the questions I want to focus on a little bit, because there's a lot of questions. And actually, I think this question was misunderstood a little bit. So I'm going to kind of go over this in dimmer high build to use for spot repairs, which you can do for that, or which can you do for that? U-Pol number 5 high build, or power can primer, or U-Pol black can that says expert primer, or U-Pol universal spot primer. And to clear that up a little bit, I am familiar and I have seen that primer. It's just a primer filler, primer surfacer, 1K products in a can. And, a lot of DIYs use that type of primer. But he said that I recommended it. And U-Pol does make great products, but that is one I'm not too familiar with. I'm going to go over it, though, so hold on. But what I use of theirs a lot is the self-etch. And that's the one that you put on the bare metal. But I have not used the aerosol can primer surfacer that they have. I'm not saying that's a bad product. I just haven't used that one much. But with that said, I want to go a little bit in depth with that because there's some things you got to watch for. And I've got a link to these down in the description, this high build primer and the in the self-etch. Now, in the number 5, that's a high build, like a spray can primer surfacer, that you might prime to sand out, if you got imperfections or whatever. Now, in the spray can, this comes in white, gray, black, dark gray, and beige. So it comes in all those different colors. And so you might be wondering which color do I use or what is the difference? I mean, it's all basically the same thing, a primer surfacer. You're going to spray it on those imperfections, block it out. But the difference is, is what color is going on top of that? I mean, if you're going to use primer sealer, which is going to give you the right gray shade underneath your paint, then you're okay. You can use any of them. But let's say you're just, it's a white car and you're just going to prime and block that out and spray your brace coat right on top of that. Well, obviously you're going to want to use the white one. Or if it's a black car, you're going to want to use the black one. So for example, if you spray that white primer on top of a dark blue car, metallic, I mean, you might see through and see that white. So, it kind of depends on what gray shade you want underneath that. For lighter colors, you're going to want lighter colors. For darker colors, you're going to want darker colors. Now, again, this is just if you're prime blocking and putting base coat straight on top of that. If you're going to be using the gray shade with the sealer, so for example, you prime a spot, you block it out, it's about like this. And then you're going to come back with primer sealer, it's a little bigger than that. As long as that sealer is the correct shade, it's going to hide the color under that. So, but if not, you want to get the correct color. But what I want to talk about this, and with a lot of these primers, you got to be careful. I'm going to pull this technical data sheet up. And again, this is down in the description. You can pull this up too. But if you look at it real close, and you're going to think this is all right just to put on metal. It says high build lacquer primer aerosol that can fill uneven surfaces prior to top coating, ideally for spot repairs on fully cured paint, polyester body fillers, GRP, in properly prepared steel, aluminum, and galvanized panels. And then you stop and think, oh, yeah, I can put this on steel. It says right there for steel, aluminum, galvanized. But you got to keep reading, and this is even with a lot of other, even the 2K products and stuff like that. You look on down, and again, these are always good to read before you use these products. I mean, it gives you the, all the different things, and it does say direct to metal. But if you look down, substrate perforation a little bit, it says for best results, ensure the surface is thoroughly clean, degreased, dried, and dust free. A braid prime surfacer with a 180 to 220 grit, degrease, and dry. For best results on bare metal, galvanized steel, and aluminum surfaces, apply 1 to 2 even coats of acid 1K etch primer. So it's saying really, you need, even though it did say it can be direct to metal, but for best results, you really want to put the self-etch. So you're going to want to do that. And what may be, they're the only ones that do this. It may be a little confusing with a U-Pol, but they call their primer, this line of primer, the self-etch, they call it acid. Instead of saying self-etch, they say acid. And basically, it's the same thing, and that's why they're calling it acid, because self-etch primer or self-etching primer, it's basically just a primer that has acid in it that, it goes straight to the steel or metal, and, it kind of etches to it. So that's all that same thing, acid or self-etch, it's an acid-based primer. But it says to put put 1 to 2 coats and dispense approximately 10 inches away from the surface. and somewhere it said, I can't see it right now, but wait 30 minutes and then you can put your high build primer on top of that. So really, if you read that too fast, you would think that the high build's perfectly fine for metal, when actually they recommend putting the etch primer on top of that. So again, there's a lot more than I just talked about, what to sand it with and all those on this. I'm not going to go over every bit of it, but like I said, a link's down in the description. And now I want to go over to their acid primer just for a second. This is their number 8. And it says provides paint adhesion to difficult substrates like galvanized steel and aluminum, ideal for rub throughs and primer prior to application of color and new bare metal panels. Etch, prime, and bare metal in one step. But anyway, it goes through and talks about all these. It's a good substrate for bare metal, aluminum, galvanized zinc coatings, polyester body fillers, and fully cured paint. So if you click on that other link, it'll tell you all about that. And it comes in gray and black. So if you're putting primer surface on top of that, it really won't matter what color this is, because it's going to be whatever color the surface is. And again, this you don't want to put on too wet. I never put self-etch or acid primer on too wet. It's just to coat the metal, and it's just a corrosion protection to keep it from corrosion. That's its only purpose. It's not really designed to spray that on there and sand or block this. You just spray it on there and wait 30 minutes and then spray your primer surfacer, and then you're going to sand block your primer surfacer. So that's kind of what this is designed to do. So I hope that helps answer the questions and the confusion. I'm a lot more familiar with this acid primer, and like it said, burn throughs. I've got a new panel, from OEM. I sanded it all down. I got 2 or 3 spots where I sanded down to metal. Well, I'm going to spray those spots, after I got it all cleaned and in the booth ready to paint, with some self-etch or acid, and then, wait the time. Then I'll come back with my primer sealer. I use sealer on everything. You don't have to. Not all people do, but I do. And then that gives you the correct gray shade. I'll put that on there, and then I'll come back and, put a base coat or whatever. So I hope that helps answer that question. So I want to go over a couple of those and kind of look at the technical data sheets on those. Okay, the last one I'm going to talk about, and also wanted to focus on this one a little bit. Smoke Show says, great information. I dig how you break it down. I have a question. I have a 48 Chevy cab in surface thrust. I did blast it a couple of years ago. It stays inside the garage. What would you do, or what would the steps be to take it to where it's ready for paint? Thank you for your advice. And so he has this truck. He has had it blasted, and what do you do now? It says it does have a little bit of surface rust. And first of all, I'm going to back up and I'll tell you what I would have done. Anytime I blast anything, I'm going to clean it up real good. I mean, that sand or media, whatever you're using. For the older cars, we still have some that we use sand. They'll sandblast them. So I know a lot of the newer ones, the thinner metals, are using different types of processes now. But anyway, you want to make sure it's clean. Make sure all the sand or soda or whatever's off there. And I know that can be a job itself. Usually when they're blasting it, they have that high pressure. They will turn the sand off, which is high pressure air, and they'll blow it off pretty good. But it always seems like there's still some sand on there. So you may get a vacuum, try to sand some of those areas out, blow it off, whatever, get it as clean as you can. But another thing, before you do that, you may have to carry this thing, because if you sandblast it, it's probably off the frame and all that. Use latex gloves, or those disposable gloves. I don't think they're latex, but or some type of gloves where your hands are not touching that metal, especially if it's been sandblasted. It's kind of porous, and it just kind of soaks up the moisture in your hands, the oils. And actually, where you touched it, you're going to see, I've seen whole handprints in there before, but you don't want to get that rust started. So I would have everybody use gloves, get it cleaned up, get it in the booth. And, immediately, as soon as I get it back from the blaster, what I would do, now this is just my opinion, my recommendations, I would immediately get it, spray it with epoxy. So spray it with epoxy primer. And that will stop all that, where now you don't have to be that careful with it. And then you can start working on it. And then once it's all epoxied, then I would fix any repairs that I'm aware of. So let's say I knew of these dents here, I would go ahead and repair them, and then you can get those back to prime blocked and ready to go. If I had any rust, then I would start cutting that out and replacing that, and then going through the steps to getting that ready, to prime and block and ready for paint. So I would get all the repairs I knew of. And then once I've done that, especially on an older, like what was this, a 48, I would definitely follow these steps, any type of restoration. Then I would go ahead and, well, the thing about epoxy, it's not the most sandable primer. It doesn't sand like primer surfacer, but you need to scuff it up, especially, it's probably going to be a long time to this point. You need to scuff it up with, 220 or so, just to rough it up a little bit where something will stick to it again. Because like you got two periods. Like you spray epoxy, you've got adhesion, chemical adhesion for a certain amount of time, 48 hours or 72 hours, it depends on the product. After that, you lose the chemical adhesion, so you got to come back and provide mechanical adhesion. That's what you're going to sand it, give it a little bit of tooth. So I'll probably go over the whole car with like 220 or something, and then I would go and prime the whole car with primer surfacer. And once I have it sanded with primer surfacer, then I would guide coat, make sure, some people like to skip this step, but it's there to help you. Guide coat the whole car, either with rattle can spray, the dry coat that 3M makes, or maybe even throw them some dry black lacquer in a spray gun and just kind of mist the whole car. And then once you do that, you want to block the whole car out. And, I would recommend using hand blocks, because that's going to help you identify more stuff. And then once you have it blocked out, then you can see if there's areas that need more attention. You see a black dot here. Well, probably there's a low there, and you might need to come back and put some putty on that area, or block it a little more, or whatever you need to do. So then once you get it all blocked out to where there's no more guide coat showing, and then block it out, then I would final sand it. In this step, you can use a DA if you want to with the pad on it. So and then final sand it with 400 to 600 grit, or you can do that wet sand, by hand, or you can dry sand by hand. So that's just kind of up to you and what tools you have, and if you have a compressor that keeps up with the DA. So once you get it all final sanded, it's ready to put in the booth, and you can start your painting process. But in your case right here, you've already had it blasted, but you're having some surface rust. So now what I would do, I would back up a little bit, and I'd probably get a DA sander, because you're really not trying to level and block it all this time. You're trying to just get it ready to prime, put some epoxy primer on there. I'd probably go over the whole car with some 180 or 220 grit and make sure all that surface rust is removed and there's no more. Because if you don't get that surface rust off and you prime on top of it, it's still there and it's going to eventually build up. So, I would try to get all that off. And then once you get it all DA smoothed again, then you can pull it in the booth, spray some epoxy, and then start the process like I just talked about. Now, I hope that makes sense. I know I ran through that really fast, but that's kind of my opinion and the way I would do it. Most restoration jobs that are blasted, I'm a big fan of epoxy. And like I said, we want to do that soon, straight after it's blasted, or before you start touching the car or anything like that. So if you've ever had anything like that or have a different process of doing it, be sure and leave us a comment. Let us know what you do, what, something different you do. If you ever had a problem with fingerprints, touching that steel, I know I have. I've seen it, where it had been touched and you can see that rust starting to form. And I'm talking about not a year later. I'm talking about, 3 days later, you can see that. And if you was to prime that before that showed up, that could cause some problems. So I hope that makes sense. I hope I didn't go through that too fast or skip any steps. I just trying to give a real quick version of what I would do. And okay, let me just switch back over here. Just kind of looking over some comments. See, Stephen Trail says, this Joker definitely needs a lift straightaway. Not sure. Not getting that one. Uh, trying to figure out what that's referred to. Oh, I see a rock crawler. And that has that was kind of a idea. I don't know if I've got the resources to do that, but I have kind of thought about it. Let's talk about the Jeep product. That would be really cool. Let's see. When you cut through your clear into base coat, do you have to apply an epoxy primer sealer, or can base over the cut cover the cut through? Okay. Mike's asking about it. If you was sanding, maybe you was sanding your clear coat, getting ready to buff, and you bust through the clear coat, do you have to use etch primer or epoxy primer? It was. And no, as long as you don't go through and hit metal, you don't have to use the etch or self etch. That's just if you bust or sand through to metal. So if you're sanding it and you just sand through the clear and you can kind of see the layers a little bit, and you know that you busted through all the clear coat, really what you need to do is you're probably gonna have to spot or blend a little bit of color back into that, or you might see where that sand mark was through. So you can just get up you don't have to paint the whole panel. You just kind of blend in that area where you burn through, and then you can come back after you sanded the whole panel with 800, and then you can clear coat the whole panel with clear coat again. So that's what I would do on that. Let's see, Rob says X2 1 E-coat. I had my project done. Thought after that time I'd be painting within a couple of months. Life happened, and it was 5 years later. Having the epoxy on it saved me a ton of work. And yeah, same. I still got some of those projects out there, and here I'm starting another one. But that I've started and haven't completed. But yeah, what he's saying is he'd sprayed his with some epoxy, and he thought he was going to just be right back on that project. But and same, a month turns into 5 years. So by epoxy, by spraying that epoxy on there, really just it seals all that up, and you don't have to come back and fight the rust like the question. So that's a very good point. It will save you a lot of work, after it's been blasted or whatever. Even let's say you've been working on it and you're going to stop for a little bit, go ahead and shoot some epoxy on there, just to save that metal from oxidizing and rusting and all that. Save you time. Mike says, thank you. So yeah, I've got some ideas on here. We'll get ready to close this in just a little bit, but I know like the Jeep had some comments on that. Rock crawler, is a four-wheel drive. It is a four-wheel drive, and who knows? I'm not sure what direction I'm going to take on it yet. Like I said, I do know that Eastwood's going to help out with some of the products. Might reach out to some of the other ones, see if they will. A lot of times not, but I'll see. And actually, Eastwood kind of reached out to me wanting to partner, so that works out good. We'll see where it goes. Be looking forward to those videos. Like I said, I do have some other videos I got to get out of the way first. And starting school, college, I teach at a community college, collision repair. That's all starting. So we'll kind of see how all this works out. So it's going to be busy. It's going to be a busy semester. So again, if you want to look at those resources I was talking about, I've got the technical data sheet that tells you, about the U-Pol products, those aerosol cans. Because I know a lot of you out there are using aerosols. You don't have the compressors and all that, and you just want to get something, ready to paint or whatever. You got the etch primers, you got the surfacers. It's a 1K in the can. Those links are down in the description. You got to click that show more where it brings all the description out, and those links will be right there. I have it listed. And also, if you want a step-by-step checklist that kind of goes through the steps you need to start a project to finish, and these are some of the common. It's not like a restoration job where you're going to go through and blast it like we talked about tonight, but most of the things you'll need to do on a repair, something that like a dent or something like that, most of those are on there to help you to keep you from forgetting or skipping a step. because you forget a step sometimes. You know, you got to go back and redo everything. And believe me, you know, with the cost of these materials these days, you know, I'm shocked every time I get something still. You know, I get a shipment in for the school or even buy something for here doing these projects. I mean, materials have gotten so high. So yeah, I'd try my best to, you know, try to get it right the first time and not have any redos. So Steven says, that's me. Thanks for the links. Okay, you're welcome, Stephen, and I'm glad you find those useful, and I do recommend for whatever projects you're using, you know, try to read those, because like I said, like the one would say, you know, it can be used on bare metal, but for best results, use their acid primer. So read them thoroughly, look over them, and that will help prevent you from a lot of mistakes as well. So anyway, if you like this video, be sure and give me a thumbs up. Share this video. Thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.